This is Smedley Prime, and I will be briefly reviewing a comic that my grandparents gave my brother, and he wasn't really that interested. It is a split crossover between, the biggest brand in the world and credit card company. And they're really big on pushing this dude along with these guys. To start off, that guy I don't know very well beyond the reviews that Meyer used to do of the IDW G.I. Joe. But he's big into wrestling comics besides that. So, of the main characters they bothered to take the time and bring in, you see Rocket, Groot, Star-Lord, Gamora, and Drax, which is pretty much the 2008 comic lineup from the Annihilation run, which James Gunn made popular with the 2014 movies, with help from that one lady that he often doesn't acknowledge, where he swapped out. She wanted the Bug dude, and he wanted Rocket, so they won Rocket over, but the lady still got a writing credit, because I remember a video I watched one time with the behind the scenes of the other actors and actresses they were going to use. They were talking about Bug being the focus, and Gunn thought Rocket was more convincing. Then you have Ant-Man, who I initially was going to think was Hank Pym, but then again, this is the MCU. Well, not all of the MCU guys, but a lot of the ones that they use. So they ended up going with Scott Lang, because I read one of the panels and he's talking about his daughter, Cassie. So, there's no Janet, who is his girlfriend in the movies. And there's no Hope. There's no Hope, who's usually his girlfriend. Janet's the mom. There's been two Wasps, so that's why I got the two mixed up. But Ant-Man, you have Scott Lang as the second one, Hank Pym is the first, and then Eric O'Grady is the spooky, shady one that was in the early to mid 2000s. His homeboy, Iron Man, Thor, no Beta Ray Bill or Throg, Black Widow, obviously Natasha, Hulk without his cousin. Collector, he's drawn a little bit more like Adam Warlock, but it's Vecino del Toro. And then his Robopests, I thought, reminded me a little bit of the Vespis from Cyberfrog, but also more like the Swarm in the 90s Transformers Generation 2, which they consume Prime briefly and then they give him a new body. But these are closer to pests than, saving Big Daddy Prime from being killed. So we open up with a giant group shot, and Rocket's got his money on his mind and his mind on his money. And they're shooting all the pesky little wasps. And it turns out that the Collector has been trying to compete with Rocket. And there's an alien lady who's, I guess, his banker. So the goal Rocket highlights overall is that with the money he saved up, he wants to buy some Stark Tech. So they crash, and it goes boom. And then Rocket's continuing to worry about money, and then Iron Man pops up, and he does more with these guys than when Falcon was crying in his Disney TV show. And then they have Ant-Man, And again, Cassie being in the Young Avengers, I'm surprised they didn't bring in Kamala Khan or Carol Danvers, given her history with the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers. But when she was Carol Danvers in the black suit, she hung out with Captain America, Iron Man, and friends. And I'm surprised Captain America's not in this, but he's not usually worried about money, so that's probably why he's not here. But the point is, it's Scott Lang because of his daughter Cassie, so he talks about trying to look out for her financial future. It's a giant page spread, and they do the rallying call, and Star-Lord pokes fun at the fact that his homies don't have their own group. The X-Men aren't in here either, and they don't. And Professor X usually does the "To Me, My X-Men" as the equivalent to Avengers Assemble, which Disney hasn't quite put into their movies yet. And then, not to spoil too much, but I think they're doing like a, blowing money on a nightclub, like a Xanadu style nightclub. Nothing too crazy or inappropriate like you might hear in a rap song, more like the scene of the movie where the dude is pining for a new girlfriend to replace Olivia Newton-John's Muse lady, and he finds a look-alike. And then, as a bonus for the kiddies this is primarily geared toward, they have a checklist of expenses they want to teach kids how to manage, much like how when I was training in Georgia with Charlies and Bravos, they had a woman in one meeting and then a dude in another meeting. Another time they were going over financial concerns and trying to impress to the trainees how important it was to manage your money because of BAH. And when you have kids, and when you have a wife or husband, respectively. So, this was not new to me when I looked at this, because before training in Georgia, the colonel we had, he was retired. He taught junior RTC. He covered a lot of this too. And the one complaint I have with this thing is that I kind of wish these guys had created a superhero. An original character that could have buddied up with Iron Man and Rocket, because there was an episode of Kitchen Nightmares that I had an injury lawyer when I got crunched a couple of years ago. She was talking about Stan Lee was on the Kitchen Nightmares as a guest, and Gordon Ramsay listed off your big names like your Spider-Man, your Fantastic Four, Hulk, and all of the characters that he and Jack Kirby created for the most part. And he's talking about to Ramsey how sort of a confessional that in spite of all the characters that he made that are in the MCU and ones that are have been added retroactively by Bobby Iger buying Fox Corporation, that he never thought, when it was just the comics before anything else, cartoons excluded, of a superhero that was based on wanting to be a cook. However, one of the licenses they had in the 80s, around the time before he, or after he stepped down as a creative officer, like ESE, editor-in-chief, they had G.I. Joe besides Transformers. And in one of the episodes of the 80s cartoon, Roadblock, he and a couple other dudes were going to a restaurant owned by his aunt and uncle, and his aunt and uncle were being beaten and bullied by, swindled even, by Cobra thugs, and so he had to save, I think they were Dreadnoughts, yeah, the Zartan and his buddies were the bad guys that episode. They were harassing his aunt and uncle, so he was trying to save them in their restaurant, and I think there were robots that were swarming around. It's been a while since I watched that one, but the point is, Roadblock from G.I. Joe is the closest thing that they ever got to a character with a history of being a cook. That instead of being a superhero in the vein of these guys, he's an army dude with a giant chain gun. And what's funny is that Robert Kirkman and Joshua Williamson will be introducing him in the Energon Universe comics very soon. That's all I got today.